we as grown-ups, adults, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, whatever, we should pursue true wisdom. We're going to find out that true wisdom is ultimately found in the Lord. But as parents, our responsibility is to help our children gain true wisdom. And Solomon gives us at least one tool to help us, or a couple of tools to help us in helping our children gain wisdom. In that first phrase, he says, the rod. In our society, we have gone away from the idea of corporal punishment in our kids. We want to count to 10. We want to put them in a corner in a chair. And those things may help to some degree. But at some point or another in our life, we've got to be willing to grab the switch, to grab the bell, to use the palm of our hand, and wear out the backside of our little one, so that they will understand that there are consequences to actions. And it will help them remember that when I do this, I have a consequence that I don't like. And from that knowledge comes wisdom not to do it again. It's our responsibility to raise up our children and to instruct them in the ways of the Lord. The same thing says reproof. We are to guide. We are to correct our children. Your job is not to be your kid's best friend. If that's your goal in life, then you're failing as a parent. You can be a friend to your kid, but first you must be a parent to your kid. I want my kids to like me, but I want them to have wisdom, and I want them to have understanding in the ways of the Lord more than I want them to like me. And if it means they don't like me for a time because of my instruction to them, then I'm okay with that, because they'll be better for it again. We must correct and reprove our children. That's your responsibility. It's not the school's responsibility. It's not the teacher's responsibility. It's not Obama's responsibility. It's your responsibility to correct and reprove your children. And if we do things right, or as right as we can as parents, if we start off when they're young, I'm talking about right when they come out. If we start out then with reproving, correcting, and the rod, by the time they get to be 7, 8 years old, most of our use of the rod could be over. Occasionally we might have to bring it out. But we form their character. What we misunderstand in our society today is that children, by the time they're 7, they've already shaped their character. Mm-hmm. Much of who they are is already built into them by the time they get to be 7 years old. And if we laugh and giggle like the fool does at the wrong that they do when they're 2, guess what? When they get 15, they're going to be even more corrupt and not see the benefit of right living. It's just going to get worse. We got to stop it when they're 2. I'll wait till they get 15 and try to deal with it. I'm not saying you're not going to have to deal with things when they get teenagers. You are. But if we do what we need to do early, what we have to do later, it's going to be better for us and wisdom. Here's a hint to where we find this wisdom for our own life and for our kids. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is insight. It all goes back to God. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. Solomon says, hey, wisdom's got a benefit. It's excellent. It's worth pursuing. But the problem is, if that's all we pursue, there's nothing beyond this life. If there's no God, if there's no eternity, then it really doesn't matter how much wisdom you gain. Why? Because it's not enough to give you meaning in life. It's not enough to bring true fulfillment in life. He tells us in this passage that ultimately it's empty. Because the same thing happens to the fool that happens to the wise man. We all turn to maggot food. We all go to dust. And if that's all there is to life, is to live and then die and turn to dust, then we have no purpose and no hope and no meaning. Psalm 49, 10-13, the Bible says, for he sees that even the wise die. The fool and the stupid alike must perish and leave their wealth to others. Trey was at the house yesterday and got a little tweet or something on his phone about, what was his name? Joe Montana. Found out that's fake, by the way. Joe Montana, little thing come on the news, said Joe Montana had just died in a car crash. And another person was with him and was critically injured. I got thinking about that. It was a hoax. It was a hoax that somebody put out. I've done research on it again this morning just to make sure. But, so it's not true. Joe Montana, as far as I know, is still alive. But what if he had died in that car accident? Joe Montana, man, one of the best quarterbacks that ever lived, right? One of the best quarterbacks that played the game. Had it all. Had plenty of, money. Could take care of his family or whatever. But guess what? Doesn't matter how wealthy you are, what station you are in life, no matter how wise you are, all of us are going to face death one day. And if this life was it, what